Mr. Edwards, as it's been mentioned, the term reimagine the Alamo is now in transition, let's call it that. Would you give us your definition of what that plan is and what you would do either for or against that?
So the Reimagine plan is supposedly gone, and back in the end of September, when the state Republican Executive Committee voted 57-1 on a resolution to make the commissioner make the primary focus of the Reimagine plan, the Battle of 1836, and to be transparent with his nonprofit groups. And soon thereafter, the Reimagine the Alamo website went down. The Facebook page went down, and it was replaced with a website called Alamo Truth, I believe that's what it was. And it changed completely what the direction that he was taking the Alamo that was introduced in San Antonio back earlier that year. And so, what would I do with it? Well, I think it's been tabled just so he can get past re-election. I do believe you paid that much money, almost $10 million for a set of plans, it will re-emerge. At least bits and pieces of it, if not the whole thing. If I'm elected, it goes in file 13. We will get rid of the Reimagine plan. That is the primary goal, is to do that. The next thing to do is to untangle this mess of nonprofit groups and do a full audit, which is in draft mode, I understand, back in September. Jerry may go into that. And do another full audit that is transparent, that will get out to the public of where all this money had been spent, so that we know what our state funds were doing in these nonprofit groups.
Mr. Ray.
Well, as I started to tell y'all earlier, where I left off, we put the book on hold when we learned the problems of Reimagine the Alamo. By the way, that's an appropriate name, because Reimagine, it's really reimagine away the battle. That's the basic thing underneath. But when we learned that, the book had to go on the back burner. We formed a committee called Save the Alamo Committee. We put up a website called SaveTheAlamo.us and associated media, trying to get the word out, because at that time, nobody outside of Bexar County at all knew the plan even existed, much less what was in it. So we worked on that for several, and I've got to change the timeline a little bit from what David said. They had this website up, Reimagine the Alamo. Well, when our website went up, and we told everybody this, because they couldn't believe what was in the plan, we said, just go to their website and look, we're not making this up. And so the first thing they did was they had videos showing the glass walls and everything. Well, first the videos were yanked, they disappeared. Then about 2 weeks later, the whole website disappeared. So this happened quite early after our thing. Then their next ploy was, I guess they paid Carl Rowe thousands for this. They put up a thing called SaveTheAlamo.com, copying our name, SaveTheAlamo.us. So they thought that was a real smart ploy to divert people from getting the thing. Then they pulled that one off and put up one called AlamoTruth.com. So I guess we weren't getting the real truth before, now we're going to get the real truth. And it had 10 bullet points in it. Number 2 says, contrary to what Bush has claimed, he's the boss. There's 2 bosses, him and the mayor. Bullet point number 10, still in there, says we're going to move the cenotaph off the Alamo. So whatever story he tries to spin out here in the news media, you can look at their actual website, and the elements are still there. I would be for scrapping the whole plan, putting in the plan proposed, passed, and funded by the legislature 3 years ago. We can go into more later. It's an excellent plan. The people of Texas will love it. The Alamo State Reimagine needs to go.
Okay, Mr. Range, this is yours. The mission statement for the general.
Did I answer?
No.
Okay, I think I still got it.
I'm sorry.
I think. Okay, well, I agree with everything they said, but I'm going to add a couple things. The 57-1 resolution by the State Republican Executive Committee was in large part occurred because of me. For about 3 or 4 days prior to that time, several of us SREC members, I am not, worked on that draft, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I went to the SREC on Friday to the Resolutions Committee and spoke in favor and answered their questions about what was going on at the Alamo. I will also tell you that if you saw the Austin American Statesman story about the draft audit that laid out the problems with the Alamo. That got to the reporter because of me, Jerry Patterson. And I will also tell you that we all talk about the liberal media. The Statesman reporter, Jonathan Tyler, who's a Yankee, but nonetheless is one of the best reporters I've ever seen, wrote that story and had to fight to get it printed because of the pushback from the editorial board, not because they didn't agree with the story, because they were afraid that they couldn't corroborate it. I got it corroborated. So all this bad news, every day you see a bad story about George W. Bush, most of it generates from people that I know who I put them in touch with the press. So I agree with that. Who's I? That's the hurricane. Never mind. Yes, I agree.
Okay, now back to Mr. Range. Mission statement for the GLO reads, the Texas General Land Office primarily serves the school children, veterans, and the environment of Texas. The agency does so by preserving our history, maximizing state revenue through innovative administration, and through the prudent stewardship of state lands and natural resources. Explain what that means in your terms, and would it change under you?
Well, one of the things I would like to change about the permanent school fund that you referenced, as y'all know, it's funded by the oil and gas lease money that comes from the public lands of Texas. Excuse me. And just to let you know, I had a little bit in my background. I did have, excuse me, some additional experience with oil and gas leases in my own family, nothing major. And I didn't even know this until about a year ago. A lawyer called me wanting to sell all rights that my family had. What it was, my grandfather had kept mineral rights out in the Howard County, Big Spring, from his parents. We knew nothing about it. So this lawyer called me up, wanted to buy the rights. I said, well, I didn't want to sell, but let me check into it. Well, finally, there were two different oil companies involved. One of them sent me a check, and just this last month, one of these wells has been pumping since '93. We knew nothing about it. But anyway, this other company sent me a check, said the value of oil for that month was $12,140 something dollars. Y'all know what my check was? $25.91. So somebody's getting rich off of this, and it ain't me. So what I want to see is a microscopic check of what the permanent school fund is getting from the oil and gas money from our state lands. I've heard that it's 25%, which may sound good, cream off the top, they don't have to do anything to get it. To me, that's not good enough. If somebody owns the oil, I think they ought to get 50%. Let's go halves on it. Or that's just common sense to me. But I would really look at those leases and see what was going in the permanent school fund, how they're constructed, and I think there's probably a lot more money that we could be getting for our oil going to the school kids instead of make these oil companies richer. That would be one major thing I would look at.
Mr. Patterson.
Well, I wouldn't change the mission of the General Land Office. You know, the mission keeps getting larger. When I was there, we were the agency that the legislature and the governor picked when there was a problem, whether it was Hurricane Ike, or it was being handled by two other state agencies not very well. The governor calls me up and says, I don't like the progress so far, can y'all take it over? We did, and we did a good job. We made some mistakes, we did a good job. When the Alamo was going to be moved from the Daughters to an agency of the state of Texas by the legislature, I knew nothing of this. I'm driving back from Dallas, and Senator Wentworth called me on the cell phone and says, I don't want to send it to Parks and Wildlife, I don't want to send it to the Texas TxGLOCommissioner, will you take it? And I said, who can turn that down? So we got it, and then we contracted with the DRT. We had an agreement that worked well. We were in charge, we hired them to run it, and we paid them a little money. It was a wonderful agreement with George B. Bush. Completely blew when he became, within a few months of becoming commissioner. And as to the royalty rate is 25% in almost all cases. And I have to tell you, not only is there a royalty percentage of the value of the wellhead production, market value, there is also a bonus royalty. In order to drill, that oil company has to bid on a per acre basis just for the right to go drill, and even if they find nothing, they are paying us that bonus royalty. If they don't produce within a certain period of time, normally 3 years, if they're not in production, they have to pay delayed rentals, or their lease, expires, lapses, and we do it to somebody else. So I would tell you that the land office and the university and university lands, the PUF, Permanent University Fund, PSF, Permanent School Fund, are the place you go to find the model. Other states copied Texas. I was the president of the Western State Land Commissioners Association, and we gave our lease for the state of South Dakota, which has started producing oil in the Bakken Shale. So we are the model for the country in that stock. Thank you.
Mr. Tripp?
So I agree with Patterson. I think the mission statement is a good mission statement, and Texas is unique. The General Land Office was created in the first Congress of the Republic of Texas in 1836. It's the oldest agency that is still in existence today. And its primary responsibility, like I mentioned earlier, is to the Permanent School Fund, to generate the revenues off of the sale and lease of sovereign lands in Texas, which is about 13 million acres right now. But what makes it so unique, and what makes the Texas General Land Office so unique in the state of Texas, happened in the Compromise of 1850, where Texas got to retain all its land. All the other states that were joining the Union at the time had to give their land to the federal government. We had our war debt because of the Battle of 1836, a direct tie to the Alamo. And because of that, we are sovereign. We can say what we want to do with our land, and we can generate revenue off of it. And that was a part of the 1850 agreement, was that so that we could build our economy, and we're still doing it today. And we're benefiting the Permanent School Fund today with that economy. And so as the first generation century of commissioners were land surveyors, understood the record of the land, understood that the land meant a lot to the citizens of Texas, and that's why they were. Then the last last surveyor to serve in that position was in 1909. And I'm the surveyor that understands it. I've got the education in it, and I meet all facets of that General Land Office in some form or fashion. And I want to bring that back, and that integrity back to the General Land Office and the commissioner's position.
Can I have one quick rebuttal?
You may.
1 minute. With total respect, I ain't happy with 25%. I think we can do better, and I would at least like to try. That's all I have.
Nothing wrong with trying.
Mr. Patterson, on the website for GLO, there are a number of references to hubs. They are a major activity of the land office, and we ask you to explain hub and then evaluate how you would handle the effort for hubs, and then would you make any changes?
The problem with hubs now, there's more than one problem, but they're really not hubs anymore. Historically underutilized business. It's a program to give the opportunity for historically underutilized businesses to get an opportunity to get in and get state contracts. And frankly, I don't have any problem with that per se. But what it is now, all these hubs will find somebody who happens to be female or a minority, and they will put them on the payroll, or they will give them some kind of a partnership in that effort, and they'll be essentially using that person's status to get a leg up in contracting. So hubs are not what they used to be, and the faux hub is the problem. I will like, and I got a little bit of time later, totally off the subject, but since y'all are from Georgetown, and I love history, I suspect you do as well, write something down. Flapper Bandit, F-L-A-P-P-E-R Bandit. And then Google that, and you'll find out something very unique about Georgetown history from a bank robber in the 1920s who was a University of Texas co-ed, and her first attempted bank robbery was here in Georgetown, Texas. That's a bonus point, I don't charge any extra. I don't charge any extra for Flapper Bandit. Google it, fascinating story.
Would you make any changes?
To hubs?
To hubs.
If it was possible, because this is a statute, this is a state statute, and the land office can't make any changes, but I would change it to where if you're gonna do this, it needs to be substantive and not some kind of false, some kind of false premise, it shouldn't be false. But that's a legislative issue. I don't have the authority to make any changes.
Mr. Ritter.
Being a small business owner and trying to obtain contracts, with the state of Texas and the federal government, you have to go through those processes, and that's one of them is being historically underutilized business. And we're not, we don't qualify for that. Although we're a small business and we are highly qualified for the services that we provide, we can't typically compete against the faux businesses that Patterson mentioned. And yes, it's a legislative process to get this changed, but I think it would be beneficial to try and get it where we started getting back to the point where we're looking at qualifications when you're asked for a letter of intent on these projects, and not look at whether or not that you're historically underutilized or moving forward with it. So that's my concern. I don't have any bonus points to give you trivial. Wish I did.
Mr. Ray?
I agree with both the gentlemen. I think if it's gonna be utilized, it needs to be made totally non-discriminatory. Like the small business guy comes in there, I don't care if he's white, black, brown, male, female, whatever. It ought to be even across the board, and that would be something I would definitely try to get, and we ought to be able to get it through. If we got big majorities in both houses of the legislature, we ought to be able to get that done, and that's what I would be doing.
Okay, Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
What does the GLO do for Texas veterans? And what would you do in this term to change or affect that program?
So the VLB, the Veterans Land Board, is under the jurisdiction of the commissioner, and their primary duty to get veterans into Texas land, buying houses and land, just to have a piece of Texas, and they give low interest rate loans. They also have assisted living facilities throughout the state of Texas. I believe there's 8 today. And they're typically down the 35-45 corridor. And some of the things that I would like to look into, because I know we're going to get a lot more veterans coming home. We have veterans that are getting older that need assisted living programs. I'm trying to word it just right so I don't offend Jerry. But I think what we need to do is we need to get more assisted living facilities out there and into the rural areas of Texas. And something that was brought to my attention at a forum recently is that Alzheimer's seems to be high in the veterans that are coming out around the Vietnam War area. And so those are special facilities. They're locked-in facilities, and they have to have special nurses and health care. And so we need to look at getting these type of facilities out there as well. So those are the type of programs that I would be looking at, and then continue to look at low interest rate loans, see if we can get those veterans into the homes in the state of Texas.
Mr. Ray?
Well, y'all may or may not know this, we got homeless veterans sleeping on the streets within blocks of the Alamo. So I would be for increasing the housing aspects of the land office to help them out with that. As I mentioned briefly earlier, I was a firefighter, and I did see a lot of very bad traumatic stuff, and I do understand how that can affect you mentally. And as you know, a lot of these guys got post-traumatic stress disorder, 22 suicides a day. Now I know that the medical end of it is federal, it's not on the land office, but I still think that something could be done, sort of in reference to what David mentioned, where we could help them with the mental aspect, have some treatment centers, do something to get them on treatment and get these suicides stopped. And I would like to see that become part of the land office responsibility also.
Mr. Patterson?
The Veterans Land Board started in principle in 1836 when we gave land to veterans of our War of Independence. It continued for other veterans of the various wars, including the war between the states and the frontier wars and the Texas Ranger Service, up until around the 1890s when we ran out of land to give away. The program went dormant until 1946 when the land commissioner at that time, Bascom Giles, went to the legislature and started the low interest loan program for Texas veterans returning from World War II. Bascom Giles, a little side note of history here, he was the commissioner at that time, and he's the only statewide elected official in the history of Texas to go directly from serving the people to serving time in Huntsville for land fraud. I mean, you know, land commissioner, land fraud, that's what Bascom did. So he started the VLD, it was solely a land loan program, and it later evolved into a home loan program. You got about a half a point discount on the interest rates if you use the VLD. We substantially improved it when I was there, increasing the loan limit. And the other thing that has been mentioned too, the Veterans Home Program, State Veterans Home Program, and that's correct, there are 8 long-term care facilities. The closest one to here is in Temple. And that was created as a result of legislation I passed when I was in the Texas Senate in 1999, establishing the Veterans Home Program. And that program operates without any of your tax dollars. But there is a problem. There is a problem. All these things are done, some federal contribution to the veterans' homes, but on the home loans, there are bonded indebtedness issued, and the current commissioner is not filling the FTEs to process the loans, which means if we don't do enough loans, we're going to lose money on our servicing our bond indebtedness. That's one of those false economies.
Mr. Edwards?
I think you had all 3.
Oh, yeah.
We can do it again.
No.
I'll tell you another question.
This is our last question time-wise, so we're gonna go ahead and I've got 3 great ones to throw at you, but I'm gonna pick this one. The GLO has a department called Community Development and Revitalization. In reviewing the community, and it's involved in community planning. Throughout the supporting documents, Agenda 21 and 2030 wording shows up intact. Do you believe any change is necessary? If not, why not? If yes, advise your actions as the GLO commissioner.
This is my question.
That starts with Mr. Raines.
Well, to be totally frank, I would have to read those provisions to know exactly what they say before I comment as to any changes. I don't know the specific language.
Well, explain what GLO gets involved with in community planning.
Actually,
I don't know.
I'm not aware of that
Okay.
at all.
I'll go to another question. You should know that. That's one of your major departments.
Do you know?
No, I don't. We didn't do no stinking planning.
Okay, there you go. That's why I don't know.
Okay. On the GLO website, under the coastal management section, is one called environmental protection. Again, Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 wording shows up intact. Would you change that? Are you aware of Agenda 21, Agenda 2030? And if not, why not? If so, advise this body of your views. And again, I'm going to finish this with you.
Again, I would have to read the exact language. I can tell you I am pro-environment. I do believe if this is in sync with what the regulations say, I think pollution needs to be held at a minimum. We've only got one planet to live on, and once it's gone, we don't have a place here. So if there's some areas that can be strengthened to control, I know that these Superfund sites are a big problem. That have gone on for like 3 decades now, and I know most of that's federal. But whatever we can do to stimulate getting those situations handled, I would be in favor of that. Anything we can do to protect the coastal waterways. I know there's a severe erosion problem. San Jacinto Battlefield, I know some guys down there, and they tell me that due to not only the erosion, but the underground water pumping of underground water, that land has subsided in excess of 10 feet since the 1970s. So we've got some major problems that need to be addressed, and depending upon the language, which I admit I'm not totally up on that, but they need to be as strong as possible. I'll just put it that way. They need to be as strong as possible.
Mr. Patterson.
What was that again? Can you give me the phrase?
Under the coastal management section of the GLO website is one called environmental protection. In reading, an appearance of UN involvement is evident, as the wording is literally taken from Agenda 21 and 2030. And I do have to state that was inserted during George's.
Oh, it's a totally new website. That's not the website that was up when I was there.
This has this, but are you aware of Agenda 21, 2030? If not,
I am aware of Agenda 21. Agenda 2030, I haven't heard that before, but I suspect it's a derivative of 21. And that website that you're referring to was not the website that was up. Everything that we had up went down and was replaced by George P. Bush's. And the other thing is, the land office environmental role is minimal. And that's Texas, that's the TCEQ. It's TCEQ role. That's not our role. Our role is to make money, is to help veterans, and to do things on the coast which have environmental consequences as to setting permitting requirements for building on the beach, which is a big controversy, the intersection between property rights of individual people who own lots on the beach and the right of the public to access the beach, and the expectation of some of those property owners that when your beach erodes, and that your house is no longer there, that the government is somehow going to pay you for you making the decision, caveat emptor, to build along the Texas beach. That's not my website.
Okay. Mr. Edwards, final response.
I've read portions of the Agenda 21, and I understand the primary concept of that. I do want to point out the president who signed us into the Agenda 21 agreement was by the guy with the same name as the current commissioner. So I do know that they support Agenda 21. I have not read the coastal environmental agreement that's on the website that you're referring to, but I do want to go into a little bit that the land office does do replenishing aspects of the beach. They do have a program to replenish the beach. They do permit dredging in the bay areas, and part of what they're looking at now are certain aspects of the surge protections that like the seawall in Galveston to keep in the Houston area. So there are certain things that we do need to look at, but I'm not for Agenda 21. I don't think that that's something that we need to concentrate on. And if it's involved in the general land office from an environmental aspect, I would like to look at that and see what we can change on that.
Mr. Ray. I think over here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, that is it. Okay. We started this session with Mr. Patterson. We'll end with your 2-minute closing messages, and starting with Mr. Edwards.
So you've heard all of our answers today. We were given some softballs, we were given some hardballs, and I think you got an overall general aspect that the General Land Office affects a lot of different things in the state of Texas, and they affect a lot of things that Texans are sometimes not well aware of, and we've got to reach the entire state of Texas, 254 counties, 19 million voters, and we've got to do this in a short period of time. And the things that we've got to accomplish are very important to the state of Texas, historically and reverence. And one of the things I'd like for y'all to do when y'all go to the polling booths, and when you go and tell your friends to go to the polling booths, is I want y'all to look at 2 things when you go there. And I want you to look at who is going to be the most qualified in all the aspects that's going to be bringing in their firsthand knowledge to the land office. And then the second thing is who's going to preserve and protect our Texas heritage, the well-rounded individual. Because on March 6, 1836, the Battle of the Alamo occurred, and the Alamo fell. And up from the ashes rose a great nation. And on March 6, 2018, we have a chance, Texas has a chance to fight for the Alamo again, and this time with votes. And we've got to do that. We've got to vote for the protection of the Alamo. It's the heated topic right now. I hate that it's a political topic, but it is what it is, and we've got to preserve the Alamo. And I would appreciate your votes. Thank you.
Mr. Ray.
Well, I've got two things I want to tell you all, and I'll try to cram them in 1 minute each. Number one, the Daughters of the Republic of Texas, I want everybody absolutely clear. Jerry Patterson did not throw the Daughters of the Republic of Texas out. That was George P. Bush, right after he came in, voided their contract, seized their library and contents, which led to a 1-year court battle, which he lost. Then they had to pay the Daughters $200,000 of your tax money for that whole debacle. Stupid move, totally unnecessary. What I would do, I would reinstate immediately the cooperative co-management contract that Commissioner Patterson referenced earlier, where they had both sides running the Alamo. They're both happy, everyone fine and good. I would also give them back their library building. I would also reinstitute the annual memorial service that they had on March 6th every year inside the Alamo Church. That's number one. The thing I want to really emphasize is this is the most important election in the history of Texas, because it's going to determine the entire future of the Alamo. And I said earlier, some counties, 10% at max, know anything at all about this. And I got to be honest with you, if we had to start that website, this thing would have slipped through and it would be done deal. And I'm not bragging, but I was the guy that started this and tried and fought as hard as I possibly could to get the word out. And it's still not out big enough. So that's where y'all come in. You need you all to become the Army, cross the line, and every day between now and Election Day, notify everybody you know in the state of Texas, tell them about the threat to the Alamo, how critical it is for them to vote, and then turn around and ask them to tell everybody they know in the state of Texas. And if we do that, we can multiply this fast and get Bush in a runoff and get him defeated, and that's what we've got to do if we're going to save the future of the Alamo. Thank y'all so much. Please spread the word.
You know, there's a stand-up comic, I forgot what his name is, it's Larry the Cable Guy, you know, and one of his favorite phrases is, get her done. I'm the guy that can get her done. My goal is to be elected to this office, to do what needs to be done, to fix what needs to be fixed, and then retire once again. You know, I'm 71, I'm healthy, I've got a lot of things I'd like to be doing. I have grandkids, I have younger kids. You know, these little guys over here remind me of how some kids can be really good. I mean, they sat through this and they've been wonderful. I don't have any political aspirations. I don't need to be somebody. I don't need to get any strokes. I don't need to get any attaboys. I just have something that I want to do, and I believe I'm uniquely qualified to do it because I did it before and I did it well. It wasn't so much I did it. It was the people that worked for me that made even me look good, which can be difficult on occasion. And I pop off, I say things, I do things, and they go, oh, what did you do that for? You know, I'm the guy that talks to the press. I had a press shop, you know, there, a public communication shop, and the press never went through them because they all had my phone number, and they just called me. You know, and we didn't obfuscate open records. We didn't keep an internal audit in draft form since September, because as long as it's in a draft form, it's not subject to public open records request. And that's what this current commissioner is doing. We need to do some things at the land office and at the Alamo that will require legislative action. I'm a former legislator. I just ask for your vote, but I will say if you can't vote for me for some reason, then pick one of these two gentlemen, because one of us is going to be in a runoff. And if you vote for P, that reduces those chances. God bless you. God bless Texas. Thank you.
We have a unique panel. You're basically not George. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for that. And if you wish to stay around, we'd love to talk to you. But the duck never said anything, remember? All right. Thank you for coming.